And turning now to Capitol Hill, where last night Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy gave an impassioned plea to Congress for its continued military support following a day filled with meetings over the future of Ukraine.
Zelenskyy was greeted by President Biden at the White House before discussing peace plans and aid packages for the war. The Ukrainian leader ended his tour of Washington with a speech to lawmakers and the American people. He urged the U.S. to not let up its support for democracy in Eastern Europe.
Against all odds and doom and gloom scenarios, Ukraine didn't fall. Ukraine is alive and kicking.
The surprise visit was punctuated by a show of symbolism as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Zelenskyy exchanged national flags on the House floor. NBC News foreign correspondent Josh Lederman is joining us from the White House this morning, along with NBC News congressional correspondent Julie Tsirkin, to help us break down the biggest moments of President Zelenskyy's visit to the White House. Josh, let's start with you. What were some of those key takeaways from Zelenskyy's address to Congress last night, and why was it so important for him to make this visit now before the end of the year?
Yeah. Hey, guys. Good morning. Joe, I think the way to think about President Zelenskyy's speech to Congress is really the three audiences that he was trying to appeal to in his visit here in the United States. One, of course, is to his own people, the Ukrainians, who want to see that their most important partners like the United States are not abandoning them, even as we start to approach the one-year mark of this war in February. The other audience was President Putin, and he wanted and repeatedly invoked President Putin's name directly throughout his short visit to Washington, trying to send a signal to President Putin that if he thinks he can simply wait out eroding support for Ukraine from its allies, that's not going to happen. But of course, the most urgent appeal was to the American people and to Congress as we get into this new Congress next year, where some of the new Republicans have been more skeptical about support for Ukraine. President Zelenskyy appealing directly to the American people, drawing a connection to Christmas, saying many Ukrainians will be having Christmas by candlelight this year, not because it's more romantic, but because they've been plunged into darkness by, of course, President Putin's war in Ukraine, Joe.
And Julie, you were inside the House chamber when Zelenskyy spoke. He mentioned how exactly Ukraine is using American aid to fight the war. Let's take a listen.
Your money is not charity. It's an investment in the global security and democracy that we handle in the most responsible way.
Julie, can you give us a little bit more insight into exactly how he was received by lawmakers? And did his speech manage to jumpstart support from some Republicans who have been skeptical about aid to Ukraine?
Yeah, well, look, to Josh's point, I mean, his third audience, the American people, Congress, as they are considering this massive spending package that would include funding for Ukraine, that was really the key here. Zelenskyy making his first overseas trip. Of course, this was intentional in the final days of this last Congress. And I think I just want to pull back the curtain a little bit. Just being in that room, the energy was palpable. You had lawmakers in the seats holding up Ukrainian flags every single moment, an opportunity they could. There were standing ovations for Zelenskyy. So a real respect here among both sides of the aisle as the seats were all filled by lawmakers on both sides of the House and the Senate. But of course, some notable Republicans missing, and those even who were there in their seat, Lauren Boebert, for example, Matt Gaetz, the former president's allies, and those who share the thinking that perhaps Ukraine shouldn't be receiving what they're calling, quote, a blank check. And you heard Zelenskyy there saying this isn't charity. We need this money. This is important for democracy. And also, I should note these kinds of tones of democracy continuing throughout this week, with the January 6th Select Committee also set to release their report. So obviously, Speaker Pelosi in her final joint address presiding over that, really making her closing marks here as well by inviting Zelenskyy to make this speech.
Julie, the Senate is yet to pass the $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill. So do we think there's going to be any movement on that deal following Zelenskyy's speech? And how much of the Ukrainian aid is hanging on the passage of that spending package?
Most of it. It's nearly $45 billion hanging in the balance of this spending package that the Senate is still haggling over as we speak. They're going to get back into session later this morning to try and get that done, because, of course, without that government package, there will be no Ukraine aid. And this was very important for Zelenskyy to highlight as well. I also want to know that heading into next Congress, when Republicans have control of the lower chamber, obviously Kevin McCarthy, who is vying for speakership there, already said that his conference, his party, will not be willing to just write any check to Ukraine. So really, lawmakers, even Republicans in the Senate that I was talking to, really see this as the last big opportunity to provide Ukraine with this big funding package as they head into a very dark and very long winter.
And Josh, earlier in the day, President Zelenskyy met with President Biden and congressional leaders in a series of bilateral meetings. President Biden had this to say.
You will never stand alone. When Ukraine's freedom was threatened, the American people, like generations of Americans before us, did not hesitate. The support from all across this country, Americans of every walk of life, Democrats and Republicans alike, had the resources and to rebound and resounding united way to provide unequivocal and unbending support for Ukraine. Because we understand in our bones that Ukraine's fight is part of something much bigger.
And quickly, Josh, do we know what the two leaders discussed?
Well, of course, the big deliverable from this trip, as we say in Washington parlance, was President Biden informing the Ukrainians that he is delivering a Patriot battery of anti-aircraft, anti-missile capabilities from the U.S., something the Ukrainians have long sought that is both strategically and symbolically important. But this whole day here in Washington was carefully orchestrated to try to showcase not only the alliance between these two countries, but the fact that President Zelenskyy, 10 months into this war, was able to safely leave his country and within 48 hours go from the front lines in Bakhmut to standing in the East Room of the White House next to President Biden, standing in front of a joint session of Congress. The fact that his country has been that resilient is a clear message that they wanted to send throughout this day of pageantry here in Washington with President Zelenskyy.
Okay, Josh Lederman and Julie Tsirkin, thanks so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.